Teggs Nose. Shining Tour. Well, today we're on the Cheshire Three Peaks hike, taking in 3 highest peaks in Cheshire in one walk. Not bad weather today. Bit of rain forecast later, so I'm out nice and early. It's only about 8:15. Fantastic viewpoint here. You can see right over to Liverpool, North Wales. Bit cloudy for that today. You've got Jodrell Bank there, Sutton Mast. I think that's Gun and whatever over that way. And then Manchester in the distance over there. Teggs Nose. So Teggs Nose was originally called Teggs Nose. So Tegg, they believe, is either a name of an individual who may have been associated with the area, or possibly a type of sheep called a Tegg. Nose is the sort of promontory's name. Promontory's name. If you think of places like Fairbrook Nose, Castle Nose, it sort of sticks out. But you've got cracking views here. You can see the second peak we're going to, just in the distance there. First peak of the day, fairly simple walk up, but we have got about 2,000 foot of ascent today, followed by, I think it's about 12.98 miles, something like that in distance, so 13 miles in essence. And I'm going to pop into a place where I used to live, or we used to live, at Wildboarclough, and possibly meet up with an old mate while I'm there. Anyway, enough of that prattle. We'll carry on down there along with a walk. As you can see, I mean, this area is mainly farming, but you can see where they've been quarrying here, but this was a millstone grit quarry. I believe it was in use for quite some time. I'll put some details up. I've not checked my notes today. Too many people about. But yeah, so millstone grit type quarrying work was carried out here for quite some time. And like I say, the rest of it's fairly rural sheep farming now in this area. Very sparsely populated, a lovely area. Some fantastic viewpoints here. I'll give you a close-up of what I can see from here. So that was actually Ridgard Reservoir. Down here you can see the Bottoms Reservoir and Teggs Nose Reservoir. But you've got a stunning view across what they call the Cheshire Plain here. And some really good viewpoints here. It's not far from the car park, and it's not much a strenuous walk so far. Those 2 reservoirs were built in 1850 and 1871, basically to regulate the flow of the River Bollin, which fed the textile mills of Macclesfield, which is just over here to our right. And then nearby Ridgate Reservoir, which is just over there, was constructed at a similar time to give drinking water for Macclesfield, followed by Trenter Bank, which is the next one on. It's a bit further along there, but we'll be walking along all those reservoirs today. They believe Tegg may have been a Norse settler. So when I said earlier it was the name of an individual, they believe it may have been an early Norse settler, because it's got that sort of ring to it, or what's it called, etymology, I think they call it. One's moths, one's words, I can never get them right. Entomology or etymology, which is it? Let me know. Anyway, some cracking viewpoints here, and like I say, if you want a nice easy walk, no real hills there, it's pretty much flat from the car park. Lots of interesting stuff around this area. Lots of burial mounds. So there's also believed that this area has been settled since the Bronze Age. There's some Bronze Age barrows near the farm down here. Stone circles, all stone circles over that way. You've got the plague cross. Now that is really, I put a picture up of that. So that was a plague cross. So that used to be up on the road near the Hanging Gate pub. And essentially how that worked was people would drop off goods there. Maybe people would come out, leave their money and take the goods, so they never had any physical contact. So I've got a picture I took, actually, a real cracking picture with a moon over it when I was coming back from the pub when I used to live here. But lots of interesting stuff here. We're going to see quite a bit of it today. What a cracking piece of wording that is. And what a lovely seat with a fantastic viewpoint. Obviously someone who visited this area a lot, I suspect. So the three highest peaks are Teggs Nose, Shutlingsloe and Shining Tor. Have I got anything to update you on while I'm prattling away? You've all seen the video on the stone stacking. That all went a bit crazy, didn't it? I think it's up at about 1.3 million views. And the first one I did, which was a bit of a shorter rant, did about 1 million views, I think. So I've gained a lot of subscribers over on Facebook. And I've also been contacted by some of the media, so watch this space. There might be a few bits coming out on some of the more traditional media with a bit of luck. So yeah, all very interesting that. We tried to contact the farmer at the moment to see if he wants to do anything about the wall that's been destroyed. I'm not sure if he will or not, because basically, you know, it's quite an old wall. I don't know what state it was in before people started removing rocks from it, whether there's enough rock up there, and it's a time and effort. We've got lots of volunteers, so thanks to all those who've volunteered. We've just got to see whether that materialises into anything or not. If not, at least we tried. Just listen to that bird noise. Stunning. Lovely walking through woods, isn't it, with all the bird noises. Several different birds there you can hear. Definitely a song thrush in there somewhere. What a stunning old tree. Look at the boughs on that. Absolutely beautiful. So this is at Bottoms Reservoir. Now that crowd's gone, I couldn't hear myself think then. Looking very low. Look at that, and this is the sort of down the side diversion thing. That's bone dry, has been for quite some time. But yeah, so just above here was Teggs Nose Reservoir. We just went past that, but I didn't film. I filmed, but I didn't comment much. A nice little spot, plenty of wildlife. I feel a bit of rain in the air now. It's not forecast this early on. You can see Teggs Nose behind me there, and all the sort of rock. There's like a bit of a scree face down the front. But yeah, so Teggs Nose, that's the first of the peaks at 1,250 foot. First one done. This is Quiet Lane. I'll check why it's called Quiet Lane. I did remember at one time, but I can't, so I'll look into that. I'll put some facts up. That's not a bad little boozer. Been in there a couple of times in the past when we used to live in the area. So this is at Rudgegate Reservoir. Ridgord, where they get it from? I'm getting mixed up with Rudyard Lake. That's around here, over towards Leek. But yeah, further the reservoirs today. We've got a few to go past. Nice little path here through Macclesfield Forest now. Now Macclesfield Forest was a royal hunting forest back in the day. So William Conqueror came over and invaded England and obviously conquered England. He basically divvied up the whole place between various noblemen who supported him in the conquest, and originally Macclesfield area was all given to the Earls of Chester. I'll go into a bit more detail on the history of that, but yeah, so yeah, this is a royal hunting forest, so people couldn't really do much in here. It was all reserved for hunting by the royal family. It was quite a big pastime of the royals back then. Particularly the Normans loved to hunt, especially with dogs. So yeah, still quite a lot of the forest left. I don't think it's original by any stretch. A lot of it's pine and whatever, but still a lovely walk and a lovely area. That's to wind the missus up. We've been watching a guy called Bongo Ben. He does that in all of his videos, and she counted the number of times he put his thumbs up. But cracking little videos actually. He goes to a lot of campsites, so if you're into camping, especially in vans, go and look at Bongo Ben. It's most of them in the Peak District. That's good. Someone's put an extra bag of rubbish up there. Very good. Right, so we head up here now. You can go that way to Winkle. We're turning up here. If you're in Winkle, mate, go to the brewery. The brewery in Winkle. I used to get beer all the time from there when I lived up here. Very good beer indeed. That's a Rangers Centre. Pit stop for the walkers on the charity walk. I'm going to keep going and try and get ahead. I'm sure about the Great Water, mate, the way these water companies are ripping us off. Cast Buddy Low. Over there, that's an island. Normally the water comes up to where you can see the green, but there's a heronry in there. But they'll have all nested by now, I would have thought. They nested, I'll come here in February to breed. There's about 30 odd in there, can't see anything. January to July they breed. Eggs hatch within 25 to 30 days. Just to my right here is Nesset Hill. We're not going to the top of that, we're skirting around the edge before we start the ascent to Shutlingsloe. They reckon that the name originates from the Shutter tribe who used to live around here, but there's no records or information around any tribe called Shutter. So I suspect it's probably just another Victorian historians made up sort of stuff to try and link it to Shutlingsloe. There's a lot of that sort of linking to Lud as well, who was meant to be another Celtic god, but I doubt it myself. But we'll talk about Shutlingsloe when we get to the top. There is some Bronze Age history around here. Various burial barrows, that lot sort of thing. So again, another area populated from way back in prehistory. Well, the rain's coming in now. And all these people are in t-shirts. Utter madness. So the microphone might not be as good now. I'm just on the normal mic, which is nowhere as good as the what's the name mic, but it's not waterproof, unfortunately. Shutlingsloe, second peak of the three, and you can see the third peak of the day up in the cloud. So I think it might be, the views might be going to rat shit. Cunts. It's about 15, 16 today, I think. It's meant to be breezier. It probably will be up there, it normally is. It's forecast like 30 mile an hour with 45 gusts. So it doesn't feel like that at the moment, but we've had a bit of rain coming, so I'll have to just leave on this mic for the day, rather than on off on off. It needs to get a waterproof mic, so if anyone knows any good waterproof mics, drop a comment below. That's to protect the curlews that were nesting over here. I saw a few flying in. Not heard any yet though. Same one, put a foot in it.
And to it. So, hold right.
Can't reach the tree. Put it about 30 mile an hour wind. Oh me mate. It's blue and hooling. That's forecast. Example is about 35. No, these cars for some auto, not where we repeat, yes. Well, that is, that's blowing a good one. I just managed to get in a dip there and applied the battery and change the battery, but bloody hell. Let's get down at the top of here. Cheshire Tracker App, which is up. Also, Wildboarclough has got what was the largest post office in the UK at one time, because it was located in the mill manager's building. Yeah, you can see why I still wet. We're up in the cloud there. There and the mist behind us is Shutlingsloe. Now the general belief is that it's named after a local Celtic chieftain or something like that called Skitter. The other thing, like Skitter's Low. The other one is it's this lizard scutter tribe that no one's ever heard of before. So I'm really doubtful about that. And then obviously Low is the word for a hill. Now it was originally spelled Shutlingslow, and then it got misspelled back in the 80s on the Ordnance Survey and now ends in a LOE. But Low is the old word for a hill. So you see a lot of Bleaklow, for example. Blues Hill comes from Low's Hill, etc, etc. But yeah, that's the history of Shutlingsloe. It's quite a high peak. I put the height up, but we dropped out of the cloud now, so the rain stopped and it's warming up a bit, and hopefully these trousers will dry out. They're these fast drying mountain equipment trousers. Like it's in the cloud, we've got to go up there and across. But we're going to drop down to Wildboarclough now, and I'll talk about that when we get down to the bottom. The old barn. Well, these are around the 18th century. This little fella here. Okay. Hello, mate. Hello. How are you? That's better. Just had to wring my sock out. It was literally my foot. I'd not noticed what my trousers had slipped inside the tongue of my shoe there. And the water had just been running off into them, into this right hand shoe. So it was a bit squelchy, but that's better now. So we just come down off the top of Shutlingsloe, second highest peak in Cheshire, and obviously we're going towards the highest now, which is Shining Tall. At one time it was Black Hill, so way back in the day Cheshire was quite different in its county boundaries, and Black Hill, which amazingly enough is now in West Yorkshire, right at the very northern tip of the peak. This was actually in Cheshire, so Black Hill was the highest, followed by Shutlingsloe. Shining Tor, sorry, followed by Shutlingsloe. But a bit nicer down in the valley now. Down there is the village of Wildboarclough, which means basically valley of a wild stream. And there have been several flash floods in the area over the centuries. The worst one being in 1989 in recent memory, where it took several bridges out, and also some poor soul lost their life. It's, you know, cars went down the valley and everything, but it just rained so heavily and came straight down this valley. It's quite narrow. But yeah, the main history there is farming. It goes back to sort of Norman times when this was all the Macclesfield forest. It's quite rural until they sort of built Crag Mill here back in the 18th century, and then the owner built Crag Hall, which is now the hunting lodge, I would call it, for Lord Derby. Used to be my landlord, the Earl of Derby. He owns all of this to the Stanley family. That's his family. Stanley family were given this, I think, by Henry V back in the day. It was the Earls of Chester originally, but I think they fell out of favour. I can't recall now, but yeah, it's now the Earl of Derby's land. He owns about 6,000 acres here, mainly grouse shooting more. But you can actually hire out Crag Hall. You can hire it out for to like staying, and you can have the butler service if you want. It sleeps about 21, I think. Got something like 12 bedrooms. It's a nice little spot there. We lived in the housekeeper's cottage around the back, like I say, for a couple of years actually. When the start of the pandemic, before we moved to Castleton, it was nice and remote in the pandemic. All we saw was the postman and Tesco's delivery driver, nobody else. The alternative name for Wildboarclough, and about 25 places go for this origin, is it was the last place, the place of the last wild boar was killed in England, but I don't buy that. We'll stick to the valley of the wild stream. But I'm going to pop up here to my mate's farm and go and see him if he's in. He said he was in today, so we'll see if he is. But a lot of these people are not very well prepared. They're all soaked to the skin, all in t-shirts. Mad. There's a grey wagtail down there. See a bobbin and a dipper. Yeah, definitely a dipper. That's Norman's cows. I've been to see my mate Norm, and these are his cattle. They're not very old, are they? It's okay, I'm not going to bother you. I'm just going to walk past. He breeds them. And he's just going out now to hunt for a rogue cow. There's a heron there, just flying down. You should see that heron all the time if it's the same one. That's Wildboarclough. You know we get dippers and the like on here. This is Clough House Farm. That's all working again now. When we were here, the people had left and it wasn't being used much. That's a new gate. This is Cumberland Brook. We're going to follow it all the way up to the top, and then turn left, veer over the top over to the Cat and Fiddle. But yeah, it's a lovely area. Quieting down a bit now. Wonderful little scene there, little old bridge and the brook here. We're going to walk up here past quite an interesting old building, which I'll fill you on when I get there. That up there is a Cumberland cottage. It looks like it's disused, but it's actually used by the scouts as like a bunkhouse. Has been for some time apparently. I never knew that when I lived here. But yeah, so that's Cumberland Cottage. You can see it there, nestled up there. It's all got metal plate, you know, metal sheeting over the windows and that. But yeah, it's a bunkhouse the scouts use.
Thank you.
No worries. Cheers. I remember one day losing my mobile phone up here. I never found it. I wonder if it's still up here. I came out the next day in the snow all the way up this route. Which was interesting to try and find it, but no joy. It was covered in snow by then. It must have just fell out. I've had one of those waterproof bags that went round my neck. When I got home it wasn't round my neck. So yeah, but that was an interesting walk up here in the snow. You can see that house again there. Little cottage. That wouldn't be a bad place to live, would it? What's a cuckoo spit? That's actually a larva of an insect. I can't remember what it's called now. Frog hopper. That's it, it's the larva of a frog hopper. Well, I've got the mic working again now. At last. That's the top of Cumberland Brook. Look at that stonework there that people have put together. It's quite a cool waterfall when it's in full spate. This is an old pack horse route through over the tops from, I think it goes over towards Flash and that way. But we take a left up this clough, or you can go up the top there. See that route there where it comes down? You can go up there and along, or you can go this way up the clough, which is looking quite dry. So I think we'll take that route. Nice. This is a nice little spot. Look at that. There's an old building there, or an old quarry bit. Not sure. We're going to continue. It looks like they are doing the Three Peaks, these people. Still got the red trail. So there's yellow and a red trail. We're on the red trail up there. I used to do this walk quite a lot when I lived up here. Here in Three Shires Head was a good one. Obviously Shutlingsloe as well. So quite familiar with the area. Just seemed to be a bit more heavily worn though. One time this path was hardly used. But I guess there's more people out and about now. Look at that, luscious green ferns in there. There's a bit of water here. This is a main watershed up on Axe Edge Moor and this area. Axe Edge Moor, 5 rivers come off there, as I mention every time I'm up there. Trying to think what they are now. Derbyshire Wye, Manifold, Dove, Goit. I always get the 5th one wrong. And the what the other one is now. Never mind. But there's 5 anyway. So yeah, you can go that way or that way. I think we'll go that way. The clough's quite dry. So let's head up here. You can imagine what this is like in winter. You'd be going up that route to the right. Let's put it that way. And in the ice, it is a lot of fun. Bit of scramble up here. Ooh. Fuck me, nearly. And to the right. And then we're up. That little bit of a brook. Clough, whatever you call them around here. And now we're going to head over the top. Up to there where you can see that fence. We'll get some cracking views shortly. You can just see the rotors coming over the top there. Look at these old walls. Been up here for hundreds of years. And unlike Mamtor, they're still standing. They've been built into silly cairns by people. So up here now, I think that's Cuckoo Rocks over there or something like that. Been across there once and there were some cuckoos. So we're going to go up there. There's a path runs across the top. That's what we're going to cut with. That takes us to the camp fiddle. Stunning views. Shutlingsloe where we were earlier. Across that valley down towards Leek, Merebrook. You've got the Roaches, the Ramashore Rocks. The A53's over that way. That road there is the A54, I think. Or is that the A53? Anyway, who cares? We can get some stunning views. Definitely see the mountains of North Wales in the distance. One of those I think is Snowdon. And we normally consider Viking. Yes. See there? Straight line on the horizon. I'll zoom in. That's the Viking down in Telford. So you're looking a good 60 miles away there. I think that's Gun. And I think that actually, no, that's Malcop with a little castle on, sorry. Or Mocop, whichever you want to call it. Mocop, I think it is, a little folly on the top. I've been there before. Quite stunning views, really. Lovely. So we're going to get up to the top now. You can just see Jodwood Banks moving in the distance over there. That's moved round. We're just going to wind our way up here onto this top path. It's going to get a bit breezy, so I'm glad I got the mic working again. But yeah, stunning views. Lots of walks around here, and you'll hardly see anybody. You'll hardly see a soul. It's brilliant. It's just a lovely area and not that busy. Not that busy. So instead of going up, climbing up Mamtor, mate, go up Shutlingsloe or something like that. Yeah, stunning views, and there'll be a lot less people up there. Way up. That's what you get for looking at the camera, and not where you're going. This is just a path now. You can see the mast of the Count Fiddle. That's where we're going to go, and that's shining tall right ahead of us. And that's our next port of call, and the third peak and last peak of the day.
Oh, thanks very much.
That was timing, wasn't it?
That's fantastic. I wasn't following you for that. Thank you.
Cheers. And there's the Cat and Fiddle. At one time, the second highest pub in England and the highest pub in Cheshire. However, it is no longer a pub. So I'll tell you about the pub and the history when we get there. But yeah, it's now a distillery, and the highest distillery in England, if not the UK, if I believe correctly. You can see behind me, so over my shoulder, you can see the Cat and Fiddle pub. So that's been here many a year. It was built in 1813 by John Riles, a silk merchant, for weary travellers to rest at, travelling between Buxton and Macclesfield on the old turnpike road. It was also the haunt of smugglers and highwaymen who would stop here, as well as weary travellers on the way. And there was a new turnpike built a little bit later on, which the pub was on. We're going to come to that later on when we get a bit further down the road there. But yeah, and in the 1900s, Charles Rolls used to stop here when he was testing the Rolls-Royce car out for Henry Royce. So he used to come over here, he's a test driver, and he would come and drive it over the Cat and Fiddle Road. It was also the final spot for the end of the Four Inns race, which was run by the Scout Association for many a year. I remember that when I was in the Scouts. Very sadly, some Scouts lost their lives on that race way back in the 60s, I think it was. It's quite sad. But anyway, that's the Cat and Fiddle Inn. Been there since 1813. So that would have been on the old turnpike. I mean, it's still the same for the turnpike, but they changed it a bit later on. But there's a milestone just down there, and we'll talk about that when we get there. So for now, we'll just go on a bit of a mooch at the pub. It's now a distillery, gin distillery. They took over it, so it's not a pub as such. You can go and do whiskey and distillery tours, like I say. But at one time, it used to be quite popular with bikers. That car park could be full of motorbikes. But now you have to go and put your registration in when you go in and go and spend money in the place. So It's ruined it a bit really. Not so many people stop now. You can see a few cars here. I'm sure they don't get as many as used to drop in on the way. I remember we used to do that when we used to ride bikes over here. We'll just cross over the road. We came up this earlier. So that's the Cat and Fiddle Inn. No longer an inn, sadly. It's now owned by the Forest Distillery, who are based just down the hill near Wildboarclough. So we're going up here to find a milestone. Don't think I've gone past it yet. This is the old turnpike route. So the original turnpike was built in 1759, but it was quite steep. And so later on, 1823, they built the new road, which follows the lines of the existing A537. This old road was getting too steep for the horses and the wagons to climb and descend safely. So they put a new route in, and this is the old route we're on now. So in a moment we'll just catch up. I can see it there actually. I can see it there to the side. I've had done a video about this, so I'll put it up there. But I did do a video on the history of the turnpike. Obviously now it's a major road, one of the highest accident rates in the country at one time, until they put in the average speed cameras. But yeah, here's the old turnpike milestone here. To Macclesfield, 6 miles. And to London it says, and I'll put up the exact number, but I think it's about 123 or something like that. It's very, very weather worn, as you can imagine. But yeah, so that's the old turnpike along here. There's the tea rooms. I can't for the life of me remember what they're called. But they're very nice, they do a good breakfast. So it's well worth dropping in there if you're ever on the way in summer, well worth booking. But yeah, we're heading along this track now. Yeah, as it says there, keep your dogs on a lead, keep to the paths. Oh, fucking hell, mate. What's up with me today? Look where you're going. So you can see behind me, this is where that big fire was. Behind the Cat and Fiddle there. 800 acres. I was chatting to Norman. Norman was one of the guys who went up to help put it out, and it was heartbreaking. You were finding dead grouse still on the nest because they wouldn't leave their children behind or their eggs behind. Dead curlews, you know, boiled eggs basically. Yeah, it's just horrendous. He said there were blokes who were hard as nails up there with tears in their eyes. And all because, you know what caused it? Some idiot on a wild camp had 3 little fires. Filmed himself, look at me with me fires out wild camping in the Goit. And this is what you did, you fucking idiot. You don't need to have a fire when you go camping, mate. Take your stove, that's all you need. You don't need to have fires. When you get to fires, go to designated sites where they allow fires. Absolute madness. Look at the destruction that's caused. All the wildlife that died. It's starting to grow green shoots through now, because it's been about probably a month and a bit. But just all down to some plank who thinks he's like Bear Grylls or Ray Mears. Well, the fire. He had 3 fires actually, apparently. And when they went and looked and the helicopter flew over, they could pinpoint exactly where the fire started, and exactly where he'd been camping. What an absolute bell end. And I bet, you know what, he probably won't get done for it either, will he? Stupid fool. Anyway, it's heartbreaking when you see stuff like that. Just about people's sheer stupidity. And that's all there is to it, mate. You can't make any excuses for that behaviour. You don't go out in the Peak District this time of year or any time of year and have a fire, mate. It's just like, you know, use your brain. Go out, camp, whatever you want to do. Just leave no trace. Simple as that. But sadly, we have a lot of morons now who just are so entitled and believe they can do what they want, when they want, however they want. Well, you know what? Your day will come. Your day will come. So there's a path up to Shining Tor. You can go that way down into Irwood. Got a lovely view. You'll get a better view from the top, but you know, you can see Kinder Scout over there and the Great Ridge. That's Russia Pedge and Mam Tor over home. And then this is all of fire. You can see the extent of that fire now. Look at that. 800 acres it was, I think. You can see it all down there, how it's spread. Then you've got Axe Edge Moor over there. I think that's Cheeks Hill. That's a hell of a watershed, like I said earlier. But yeah, so we're going to head up here now and grab some lunch. Shining Tor, the highest point in Cheshire. Shining Tor, the third of our peaks today, and the last. What a stunning view. You can see Jodwell Bank down there, Macclefield's just over the hill. You're looking over towards Liverpool in the distance. Can't quite see, it's a bit too hazy. Normally you can see the cathedral. You've then got Manchester here. You're then looking down over the end of Shining Tor, over towards Eccles Pike and the like. Then you've got Wildboarclough in the distance and Howden Moors. Then you've got Kinder Scout. You can see Grinesloe Knoll there. I bet today the old downfall's doing its trick, blowing back upwards. You've then got Mam Tor and Rushop Edge. You can see Wyn Hill there in the distance, and you can see the Derwent Edges coming across, looking up over towards Sir William Hill and Offerton Moor, Chatham Moor, etc. Then you're coming back round now over towards Axe Edge. Over behind there will be the Dragon's Back, Axe Edge Moor, and then you're coming back round here now, again the Roaches in the distance there. And then you've got Shutlingsloe, and look how different its shape it looks now. It's a fantastic bit of geology, that. Then you've got Mao Cop, you've got the Wrekin in the distance, you've got Sutton Mast in the very distance. You won't see him very well, but actually over there you can see into North Wales. What an absolutely superb view. I'm going to dive behind this wall where there's a little bench. You can tell we have prevailing winds in the southwest because that's where they put the bench. So we'll go over there now. There's a bit of a memorial. I like that. David McKillop, 1951 to 2008. We climbed the Hill of the Giver. Brilliant. Absolutely superb. I'd like something like that done for me. But we're going to bomb behind this wall now, hopefully, and grab a bite to eat. Sadly, it's basically garage food. A ham and cheese sandwich, some cheese onion crisps and a Yorkie bar. They're not as good as they used to be, are they? They used to be rock hard. With a windsock there from someone leaving their peat behind. What a stunning spot for lunch though. All fed and watered. Sheltered behind that little wall. I forgot I got myself a sausage roll as well, so I'm quite full now. So about 4¼ miles left. My feet got a bit wet earlier. Just started to get a bit of trench foot, I think. Just feel under my toes. Now it gets a bit sore. So we're going to drop down over here. Quite a steep descent down to Lamelode Reservoir. And then back up to Walker Barn. And Teggs Nose. We'll be turning off to the left down here somewhere. My feet will be alright once I get warmed up again. But yeah, what a stunning day. Clip turned out nice now. After that horrendous downpour this morning. It was a bit grim, that was. But like bloody winter than bloody summer. I think this is where I turn off. Looks like they're following. I'm following the same route, look. Yeah, the red route. So that makes my navigation easier. I'll just keep following these red flags. Look at that wall, straight as a die. And that was probably built hundreds of years ago. Probably a couple of hundred when they did all the enclosures at least. That's straight as a die. And still in good shape, mate, relatively. This is a bleak environment up here. The whole wind comes sailing off from the Welsh mountains across here. And from the southwest that way. Impressive stuff. Get the old, they used to do a bit of coal mining around here in places. Not a huge amount, but a bit of sort of coal mining was done back in the day as well. About 4 miles left now. Back there is Cat's Tor. And then halfway down that slope somewhere over there is those 2 thunderbolts that crashed. P47 Thunderbolts, I think they were. But yeah, that's Cat's toy. Drop down to Pim's chair, Old Nick, and a few other viewpoints along there over the top of the Woodward Valley. And you can see down through that valley. Lovely there, isn't it? I bet it looked really creepy, that wink end, didn't it? Like some sort of nonce. Oh dear. Look at these lovely old stone gate posts. Yeah, they must have repurposed old standing stones or waymarkers, I think. Just look at them. They've been there for centuries. It's over there in the distance. I'll try and zoom in. You can see a little white blob. That's called White Nancy, just above Bollington. And that was built to commemorate, I think, the Napoleonic War, if I remember rightly. I've been over there, me and Mrs. Viking went for a nice walk over there. There you've got Lamalode Reservoir. That was built in the 1950s, basically for drinking water for Macclesfield. But apparently, that is the highest built dam in the UK or England, one of the two or both. But yeah, that's looking really low, isn't it? Look at this lot hiding in the grass. Alright chaps, a lot of bollocks to me, mate. Never old barn. I can hear oyster catchers down there. They come up into the peaks. I could hear them. Getting a very high pitched piping, peeping sound, don't they? You hear it? Pretty certain that's oyster catchers. A lovely row of hawthorns, I think. Stunning. Look at this beauty here. Look at that. That's got to be an old stone of some sort, hasn't it? An old standing stone repurposed into a gate post. I saw some markings on the other side. There's just a lichen. That's a beauty though. That's a beauty. Clearly some sort of old packhole route or something. Look at the cobbles there. Love these old routes. Got to find out how to book them. I've got a book of all the old milestones. But look at this. Talk about leaving the steepest till last. Right, let's go. You might think this looks a bit daft, but it saves my Achilles tendon. Just a slight little angle. Small steps. Use your arse and you. Rather than pull yourself up like that, push yourself up the hill. Makes all the difference. Oh, another big stone here, look. That one looks like it's got writing on it. Some graffiti or names or something. Let's go over this. A little bridge. Followed by style. And another gate and a style combined. Gatage and styleage. What more do you want? And a nice little worn path through this field. This little lane here. That goes nowhere apart from that farm. Look at these gorgeous buttercups. The whole field's just full of them. Absolutely, this is why you have no mow May. That is absolutely beautiful. Did you put one under your chin? See if it glows yellow, you like butter. But lovely, look at that. That's why you let things go back to the wild as much as you can. You know, wait till these have all bloomed and flowered and then mow the grass. Makes a huge difference to bees and insects. This is just absolutely stunning. I feel like skipping. That was a bit anyway, he wants me to do that again in a hurry. But yeah, just look at it behind me. Beautiful, beautiful. Nature at its finest. Love these signs. I think a lot of them quite new actually these days. Most of the ones I've seen have been going for a long time. Look at that fantastic bit of old machinery. That's superb. Is that an old threshing machine or something? Or I'm not sure. It's been there a while, hasn't it? Glorious little path. Probably see that rain coming in. I'm hoping that we're going to just beat it. The wind's just pushing it that way, but it seems to be coming over to us a little bit as well. But you can see that, can't you? Look at that. What a style. Finger post. And a Peak District millstone. Oh, call that butterbur at the side of the road. People think that's rhubarb, but it's actually called butterbur. And you can't eat that, mate, but look at the size of it. So this behind me used to be what was called a Setter Dog pub. That was built in 1740 for people travelling along the turnpike road, potentially before it was even officially a turnpike. It didn't become a turnpike until 1759. In the 19th century, it became a pub and a post office combined, and it was probably one of the last ones before it shut in England that combined the post office and pub. Sadly, a private residence since 2007. This is a lovely old Walker Bar Methodist church, built in 1865 by voluntary contributions, a Wesleyan chapel. Beautiful. I wonder if it still holds meetings. 6:30 worship. You never know. And here we are, back where we started. Well, we're back in the car now. That was a fantastic walk, that. So the 3 Cheshire Peaks. The official route's about 13 mile, but I did a few detours, so it ended up being 15 mile according to my watch, but I'm always a bit dubious about that. The 3 Cheshire Peaks, Teggs Nose, Shutlingsloe and Shining Tor. So cracking walk that, lots of history, lots of great views. A bit blowy and wet on the top of Shutlingsloe, but it always is up there. Really enjoyable. So if you enjoyed that, if you like, hiking, history and nature, like and subscribe to the channel. Doesn't take too much. Click the bell, then you might get notifications when my next video or my next content comes out. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.